Big announcement came out here in the last couple hours. We knew the teams, we just didn't know when. So BYU, Houston, UCF, and Cincinnati will be playing Big 12 football in 2023. And unless things are announced by the SEC that pulls OU and Texas out to join the Southeastern Conference sooner than what has been announced just recently, that it was still a 2025 uh, expansion move, that we'll have a 16 team, pardon me, we will have a 14 team Big 12 here in 2023.
Yeah, it's interesting, Mark. I know that we've talked about that, and I think the thought was, there was some negotiations over the last, 3 to 4 weeks, that this was something that was a very real possibility in 2023. But now with the buyout, which is about, from what I've seen, about $18 million per team, for the buyout to get into the Big 12 in 2023. And you're seeing a lot of these other teams starting to follow suit, Mark. You've got some of the Conference USA teams that were moving over to the American Athletic. They're starting to announce that they're joining in 2023. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see what Oklahoma and Texas's play going to be here. I saw a tweet from Brian. Gosh, his name's escaping me now. From the Austin American Statesman, he said he talked to a high-ranking official at Texas, and says that Oklahoma and Texas are likely still in the 2024 cycle. Brian Davis, I believe, is his name. And so I don't know. There's, like I said, there's two schools of thoughts on this, right? If you're are you willing to hang around in a in a league that you're not going to be in? And is the Big 12, how interested are they in having Oklahoma and Texas in this league that that they're not going to be part of? We talked about last week, like, what do you do with the divisions? What does the conference championship look like? What does the schedule look like? Are they willing to do something special for a year, and then go back to what their future schedule is going to look like? So, I mean, that's all interesting to think about as well. Now, I think with the COVID year a couple years ago, a lot of teams, there's some conferences that did that, right? They shook up their schedule a little bit just for that one year. So it's not certainly not unprecedented. By any stretch. But some of the things that I've continued to hear, Mark, even kind of this morning with everything happening, is that Oklahoma and Texas are likely to stick around for a year within this kind of makeshift conference, which will. But you never know. Like I said, we would expect to hear something probably before the August timeframe. Maybe not in any official capacity from Oklahoma or Texas, but probably no news is maybe not necessarily good news, depending on your the way that you look at it. But um, no news is specifically probably means that Oklahoma and Texas are going to stay put in this Big 12 for a year. And so, like I said, there's different schools of thought. I think the thought right now is maybe Oklahoma's not as ready as they would like to be, to enter the SEC in the 2023 season, with everything that's changed, a little bit of stability. Texas is obviously not in great shape to be to be ready for the SEC immediately. So, but again, the other side of it, you kind of think, okay, how much difference will a year make from 2023 to 2024? So, yeah, I would, like I said, I would lean towards everything I'm hearing, maybe 2024, but at the same time, you almost ask yourself, why wait another year? Why, if you have the money there, if you're willing to spend it, right? I mean, if it's not if it's something that you're not necessarily willing to spend early to leave early, at least 2 years early, then that's certainly a consideration as well.
Sounds like I'm going to get my wish, which is to get a Big 12 with all of them in the same conference, at least for one season. I just want to see, although we've heard that the Big 12 will do everything possible to build Oklahoma and Texas's schedules so that they are only playing those existing members of the Big 12 for as much as I want to see them play the new members of the Big 12. I guess it's feasible to just set up their 9-game conference seasons against the existing other 9 members of the conference and then build everybody else's schedules accordingly. But I would like to see those games being played. As we mentioned, Houston and Oklahoma got together about 6 or 7 years ago. They've got some history. Certainly Houston and Texas have a long history back in the Southwest Conference. Would love to see those two get together. BYU and Oklahoma played about 15 years ago. Cincinnati emerging as the group of 5 here in the last 4 or 5 seasons. It would be intriguing to see a Cincinnati that's been able to match up against some pretty heavy Power 5 teams, beating Notre Dame last year. See them match up against Texas and Oklahoma and UCF as well. But as we mentioned, I think in one of our previous conversations when this was first announced, that Texas really needs to step up its game, or that's going to be another in the layers of embarrassing results that Texas football has endured if they have 4 group of 5 teams enter the Big 12 and Texas has to play them and they lose.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right, and the last time Texas had a home and home with BYU, that they got hammered on both sides of it, right? I think it was a little bit more competitive in Austin, but still, it was a bloodbath in Provo. So yeah, that'll be interesting. I think for me, I'm with you. It's pretty well set in stone how excited that most people are for Oklahoma to go into the SEC, and what those matchups will look like, and the culture, and everything that's going to be changing with the entrance into the SEC. But also, I think to your point, it would be intriguing for me to see some of these games that you could see within the Big 12. Still Oklahoma, absolutely. And some trip. How intriguing would be Oklahoma going to Orlando to play UCF, especially with Dylan Gabriel on the team. Still, if that were to happen, and then and then trips to Provo would be pretty interesting as well. So yeah, count me. I'm good. Obviously either way, I think it's exciting either way, but I think it would be cool to have one season of this kind of makeshift Big 12, and I think for fans that kind of want to flaunt that, is you have the ability to win the new Big 12 championship in the last year that is there before moving on to the SEC.
Yeah, they're most likely matchups that we're not going to see because you only have 3 or 4 non-conference games. The majority of those are played against the group of 5 or the FCS. So there's only 1 or 2 Power 5 opponents out there for every school. And so the likelihood of scheduling these teams later down the line is remote. It just mathematically isn't probable. So I would like to see it. Again, I understand the points that have been making that the Big 12 would most likely steer clear of those matchups as much as they possibly can, which I think they can build a schedule and exclude Oklahoma and Texas from the 4 new entries schedules. But I would like to see the potential of those games being played.